Hello, welcome to this month's episode of WCEG Millennial Talk 2.0. I am your host, Ines, and this is the multilingual intergenerational conversations. Today's episode is very exciting, especially for parents who have kids between the ages of 2 and 8 years old. This is perfect for you, whether or not you homeschool them, whether or not they go to traditional schools or even go to daycare or preschool. This is going to be an awesome episode. I want to let you know that we are available on your Roku. So go ahead and search for the app. It's WCEG Network, and you will find us. It's the purple one. Go ahead and subscribe to our social media channels. We are on Twitter, Instagram, all of the social media channels. Just type WCEG and you're going to find our network. We have plenty of posts and incredible guests on each of the shows. Today's episode is no less than any of that. I am Ines, and you can find me on social media at NS Reviews LLC. And the views of this show do not reflect the views of the network. I just want to let you know that we are on all of the podcasting platforms. With all of that being said, please give a silent applause for Miss Lauren Watts with the Blueprint Imaginative Play.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you agreed to be here. So I want to kick off the show by explaining how I know who you are. I'm scrolling on Instagram one day, getting ideas of activities to do with our kids. Like, I have a toddler. She's 2 years old, but don't let her think that she's not 25 according to her, okay? But I was scrolling on Instagram and you had this statement that stuck with me. It literally changed my perspective of how I was parenting and playing with my daughter. Do you know which statement I'm talking about?
Which one I use quite a bit. So which one spoke to you?
The one where you said, don't ask kids what they want to be when they grow up.
But what problems they would like to solve? Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yes, that's exactly it. Because can you elaborate on that more? Because I want our audience to have more of an understanding of why I connected with it.
Mhm. Well, that quote stuck with me because I'm an educator by trade. I have an early childhood education degree from Brown University, and I've been teaching, I've been a parent, I've been an administrator over child care centers for many, many years. And so I've had a variety of perspective and seeing learning in action. And it's so common, even when we were children, for us to grow, what do you want to be when you grow up? And we get into these positions and it's like, okay, as we are an adult, and it's like, oh, well, I don't think I like this, or this isn't what I thought. And so that saying to me is because when you kind of get into your passion kind of and your natural gifting speak for you. And you can do whatever industry that you would like to be in as long as you make it unique once you put your touch to it. So you can be a fireman, a doctor, a nurse, a lawyer. Granted, those are very credible careers, but it's when you allow your passion and your natural gifting to kind of move and allow you through that atmosphere to make a difference in a particular industry. Versus just kind of diving into something that someone told you, oh, you can be this or you can be that, and kind of sticking to that mold. When you allow yourself to just grow and flourish in those industries by solving problems, identifying issues, that's how change is made. That's how, things are innovated. And that's how certain people are just creative and new things are birthed within those particular industries, which makes things better for us as adults and for our future in a sense. And so that's kind of how I took just a hold on that particular thing moving forward, with the basis it being of my company as well.
Wow. Wow. That is a platform to stand on because you're not making this platform just for you. You're making it so kids can say, I can customize the way I do this. Because in the past, it may have only worked this way, but with the way technology is moving, access to resources are moving. And honestly, I believe since the pandemic, more people have decided to part time their career and full time their passion.
For
And so
sure.
I believe you are touching that niche market, especially because these kids are growing up into a era that we haven't experienced yet.
Mm-hmm.
Like this level of technology with all of the AI And like I had a few months ago, I had the Lab Tech Show host on this show, and he was explaining how AI is going to keep happening. So we might as well learn it. And so putting that problem solving aspect and adding in abilities that are universal is something that our kids need in this day. So moving forward, what do you plan to do for getting your products to more clients? Can you elaborate on what you offer and then how you want to reach more kids?
So this, like you said, this was a passion project born out of COVID. For me, like I said, I operate a childcare center, and as well as being a parent. When schools closed and the world shut down, my heart went out to those kids who, one, weren't already in school, and those who had to just stay at home with their parents. Now, parents are a child's first teacher. I do stand by that 100%. But the reality is that some parents, they just are not in a space to teach their kids academically day by day, and they rely strongly on educators and various people to kind of teach those kids the necessary tools, which is not a problem. It's just a matter of preference. But for me, because I know that there was a particular learning loss that was that came about due to COVID. That's how I developed this product, because I wanted to create practical materials in which families can do at home without going out, making purchases and doing those things, so that kids can learn effortlessly through play, through practical activities, so that when they decide to enter school, that there wouldn't be a drastic learning loss. All of my material is developed based upon the Georgia developmental milestones. And so the kids are learning certain skills. So whenever they decide to go, whether it be Head Start, preschool, or pre-K, it won't be a shock. And it kind of holds the adult's hand or the guardian's hand to whether they are actually just, you can be cooking or you can be folding clothes and still learning, and kind of letting both parties know that, hey, this is actually taking place. So with that being said, we started off with that model, doing hosting birthday parties. I live in a community where we have a lot of children, and because no one wasn't like headed out to different places, they felt comfortable with me and my team coming in, hosting 60-minute events to where we would do like a live demonstration of our box. And that became a hit. We did a lot of festivals, but it came to a point to where I could not be at every place at one time. The demand became really, really great. And so that's how the subscription box was birthed, because now I could mail my version or my blueprint out to whoever needed my services. And that is how that they pivoted into that. And from there now, I'm looking into hosting more live events. Again, with the ability in mind to target kids that are homeschooled, kids who aren't in school, so that they can have an opportunity to socialize. And so I've partnered with a facility within my, hopefully others throughout the city, the metro area, to where we can host 60-minute classes on breaking down what I like to call a career day for little ones, in a sense. And so we do hands-on activities for the month, and at the end of the month, we bring in the actual career professionals so that they can kind of still academically learn those things, be more engaged about careers that they can be within their community at a younger age. We're being super intentional about our services, and that's how what we're planning to strive to do moving forward this year.
Wow, what an amazing mission to be on. I honestly was thinking something similar for my area. I'm in Gwinnett County, and I know you're on the east side of Atlanta, right?
Yep, the city of Atlanta.
Okay, we're gonna have to connect because
For sure.
I know our counties are different, but that doesn't mean our missions have to be different. So I honestly just got my new office. It's the multilingual micro school of the Snellville area, where I rent it out to homeschooling parents. And so we host play groups, and this seems like something that would be perfect. We're going to talk about this off the air, but let's definitely work together so that our kids, not only in both of our cities, but in our whole state, and our country get to benefit from us collaborating with other professionals who do educational services, but also professionals in these fields. So I was doing some research on these boxes now. My daughter, she has the construction uniform. When I saw you at Invest Fest in 2023, you had different costumes, and I knew my daughter needed that construction one. It was too big on her, but we recorded the first episode of our show, Coworkers Caseras. It's on YouTube, and she is like wearing this construction uniform, but she will not let you think that it's a costume. She knows for a fact that she had built her car on the first
Yes, these kids are the costume, they will not take them off. That's one of the things that we're getting from a lot of our parents. They absolutely love them. And I'm so glad that your daughter, again, is just fitting right on in with the community.
She definitely has slept in it a few times. If it works, it makes her happy. I know I'm not the only parent that's just like, that's harmless. I'm going to make sure that my child gets to be happy. So in making sure our children are happy, a lot of parents, put a negative perspective on using screen time. I personally use screen time for my daughter because mentally I need that break. And I make sure she earns it beforehand. So my daughter has the strictest curriculum I ever wrote for a 2-year-old. I change it every year because I hold her to a high standard and I want to make sure I'm mentally stimulating her. Of course, if it's something I need to slow down on, I slow down for her. But when I'm writing other curriculums for parents, it's the imagination aspect isn't something that I've like made sure to include. So how do you take a child's imagination and add it into an academic format?
Well, for me, like I said, I mimic my product based upon Georgia's standards. So kids, which means it includes a lot of language and literacy, social and emotional aspect, physical play within all of my activities. And with that, I kind of take the child's lead in a sense. I mean, again, it's very practical. It's things that they are already doing. So it's nothing that's like out of the norm. It's just putting more intentional attention on the actual task itself. I do believe that there's a balance between screen time and actual imaginative play. My personal preference is that children learn best through play because they mimic what they see. They're learning, like I said, that language is built and that actual role playing, they can pretend and create and be whatever they want to be. And so I take advantage of that opportunity, especially during that birth through 5 age range, they are just soaking up so much stuff. And so with me, like I said, it's just that simple one-on-one family engagement because I'm a big supporter of that as well. So being intentional with the day-to-day tasks that you do at your home and just bringing that parent, because like I said, we believe that our parents are our children's first teacher, and just merging them together is kind of how I choose and pick my activities. There are some in which children can be independent, that they're just so simple that they can do on their own. But the bulk of it is, like I said, it encourages that those interactions to where we're learning from one another, and then we're actually going out into the real world. So, did I answer your question? I know that it was
You did. You
jam-packed.
did.
Okay.
I do. Okay. So pivoting to like a world impact of what playing with your children does, I would like to say, like, not all parents view themselves as their child's first educator. So mentally for me as a homeschooling parent, I'm like, everything I do with my child, especially at home, is homeschooling. Even if they go to a typical school, a traditional school, you are homeschooling them. If you tell them, don't do that, if you tell them, come over here and watch this or go do this, I feel like with giving them instructions, a teacher gives instructions. So
sure.
Taking the time to be patient as an educator is, I like how you are incorporating the parents have to actively participate in the content of each subscription box. So I saw for this year's list of workers that the careers the kids can look at include people who do our necessary jobs. So you said this started in a pandemic. And so from what I've seen, you have a list of what are they called? The essential workers. You have a list of essential workers who around the world were necessary to keep the world going, even when the rest of the world had shut down. Can you
Mhm.
give us some examples of these careers that the kids can dress up as?
Sure. So we have, of course, your favorites, your firemen, your police officers, your construction workers. We have your postal workers, which they also can now be your delivery workers, chefs. We have gardeners, quite a bit. Flight attendants, pilots. The world is limitless. I know for me, like I said, I know AI is super popular, and clearly there's some benefits to it. But for me, I always think you can never beat that human touch. And regardless of how far the world transitions and grows, there's going to still be you're going to need to have some basic skills. And I think these particular careers, I mean, while again, they can be enhanced through technology, I'm a supporter of that. But I still think kids should be introduced to those just basic, necessary people that kind of keep the world effortlessly going. Because if we have another, situation similar to COVID with technology, when the world just shuts down, we're going to have some people that kind of know how to keep this thing going, you know. And this is just me and my due diligence in passing the baton from one generation to the next, to kind of make sure that I am contributing to society to kind of keep things going in the effort of being better and merging just the whole world together. So I'm very foundational based to where it's just super fun. You know, I remember my first job. When I didn't have any responsibilities about bills and all this and that, it was just the sheer desire of getting up, preparing, going to do something, learn something new, and then receiving that paycheck. Now, it's not all about the money, but just when you don't have so many various factors that are standing in your way, that is what Blueprint is for kids. It's for them to just kind of go, imagine, play, create whatever they may be. It could be the tallest tower or delivering a rocket. It doesn't matter because it's all possible, you know. And so that's the basis of it. And like I said, I love watching kids interact and just watching them learn through play and figuring things out. That brings me so much joy. It makes me feel so fulfilled with this particular product that I'm doing. And I'm just grateful to see what it turns into moving forward with the kids.
Wow. Okay, so you're talking about the feeling of your first job and going to get that paycheck. One thing I'm making sure that I incorporate into every child's homeschool curriculum is that financial aspect. So
Mhm.
in the future, think about it, add some kind of banking kind of aspect to one of these costumes, because the financial literacy, I know for a lot of people that look like us, we aren't taught this at home. So we end up making mistakes, and we need to normalize this for this next generation. That's how we're going to make sure this generation gets ahead. I think they said by the year 2050, the average net worth of the Black family is supposed to be zero or negative income. And I feel like we have the power to make a difference. And you were at InvestFest, so you saw 20,000 people in one area that most of them look like us, learning about financial responsibility, so that they break those cycles of poverty mindset and lack and not knowing how to take care of finances. So I think that would be a great one to add. But also going back to that global kind of impact of what happens if the world shuts down again.
Mhm.
I work with people who use sign language, so deaf individuals, but there are other individuals who are nonverbal. You work in the educational field, so you know that there are a lot of different people who communicate differently. They may use an AAC device, like a computer that talks for their on their behalf, or they may use other pod books or different items that make it accessible for them. So just like those construction workers and architects work together to make buildings more accessible, I would like to make the job force more accessible. So in all of those careers that you have mentioned so far, the firefighters, the police officers, the chefs, and all of that, I want to make sure these deaf kids that are growing up now get to see themselves in those roles as well. So I would love to partner with more people in this area so that we can raise up a community of people that are young who grow up using signs. So when a deaf person is like 16 they can apply for a job in customer service because it's not weird to be using sign language. We're going to normalize it. We're going to normalize knowing another language because now more than ever before, we have access to the whole world. Like even on our network, WCEG, we got show hosts that aren't even in the country. So I want to make sure that our kids get to benefit from this. And like you took me back to my first job. It was Six Flags. Oh my gosh.
Mine too.
I love Six Flags. So I understand what you mean. So when you said that passion, like it wasn't about the money. Yes, the money was good, but like Six Flags in general, you got to meet so many different people. It was like the whole world came to you and you got paid to interact with them. So knowing these different languages, I was able to practice them every single day that I was at work. And that was the most fun part about the job. The paycheck was minimum wage. So
For sure.
it was just nothing. But like now I'm grateful to have had that as my first job because it really opened up my perspective. And that's part of why I'm like, this next generation, it doesn't matter where they work, they need to be prepared for everyone in the world to be able to come and order from them and have those customer service skills. So I'm sorry that was a long train, but you just really
No,
got me excited thinking about
but
my
you know
first
what?
job.
That kind of goes into my long-term goal for this. Like my goal, after this phase is over, I plan to open up a pretend and play center, in which is a mini city to where kids can kind of just indoor play space actually, to where children can kind of go and be the citizens and actually be the workers and dive into those roles and live their own life outside of what the world, I mean, there's so much violence in the world. There's so many things that to where kids can't truly be kids, and not have to worry about just things, And so the space that I have, like I said, this is my long-term goal, is to just have that space to where they can be those citizens and make those decisions and actually use currency to pay for things. If they're being a grocery worker at a store, they can take it to the restaurant and be a shit. Like those sorts of things. That's the type of interactions that I would love to have children engage in at this pretend and play center that I'm doing. But again, it's this all in stages. But ultimately, like I said, the box is to prepare the kids for the real world. And ultimately, I'm just creating various platforms, as you said, in which you and I will definitely partner on to make the world a better place for our little citizens out here.
Wow, the safety. Okay, so I grew up on the west side of Atlanta, so like I know about safety is a necessary infinite resource we have to give our kids because I grew up and I was around certain situations that I can't afford for this next generation to continue. Like I live in Gwinnett County and the like it's dangerous. Like where I live is safe, but it's dangerous knowing that 18-year-olds who still go to a high school can get a gun legally and like they might not take it to school, but to have the opportunity to do that is terrifying. And like with everything that's been going on in the world, I know a lot of people are so stuck on the I must have my gun. No, we got to protect our kids too. So if you're going to have a gun, it's more than about having a gun. It's also about making sure gun safety is available to anyone who can purchase this. I know this isn't what you were mentioning, but the safety aspect like is so important to me. Like I'm actively working with people in this community, business owners, not just in Gwinnett County, but in the state to make sure our kids grow up feeling safer, especially the ones who don't look like,
Yes, yeah, I understand. I totally understand. But again, it all, for me, like I said, I support it 100%. And that's why, for example, that police officer box, we have a activity that kind of promotes conflict resolution because we want our kids to be able to communicate their thoughts or their feelings. Because even though, this world is, and this is a whole nother tangent, people don't identify various feelings. Yes, anger is always the leading one, but instead of you being angry, you could just be frustrated. You could be disappointed. You could be, an array of things. But people take that feeling and kind of go off on the deep end. It's like, no, if you would have just communicated how you truly feel, or we could have been better listeners, then we could have diffused an entire situation. We would not have needed guns. We could have needed, fight. It's just so different. And so again, my goal is to start earlier, sooner than later, because the earlier, the better that these kids know how to handle situations and communicate their thoughts and feelings effectively, we can, that's what we start, that's what change starts. You know, I mean, because it just starts there. I know a lot of people start when they are able to communicate, whether it be third grade or kindergarten, but start when they're in, start when they're in the womb, talk to them, read to them, you know, and just continue that day-to-day conversation and being engaged with your kiddo. And it just makes a difference. Like I can see it in my own child. I know I'm not a perfect parent, but there's some things that I was really intentional on. And I took what I've done with him and poured it into this box too, you know. And of course, the ideas from other parents and things that work. I want the best for every child that's out here, you know, for an affordable cost. I don't want to be out here charging $1 million, and it still leaves out that group that needs it the most, you know. And so that's my hope is for, you know, give or take this product or not. This is just my contribution to society to make sure that the world is truly a better place and that we're headed somewhere versus what we constantly see on the news each and every day, that there are a group of people that are moving in force to make a difference, you know, in a sense.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So like the concept of my faith is in humanity has been restored. You're like you sounded like you in the living embodiment of that concept. But going to what you just said about the emotional development and conflict resolution in people who have authority in our communities and starting young, that's a part of that effective communication. As you said, that's part of why I started making sure more families became multilingual or at least bilingual or trilingual if they only speak English, because I want them to not only learn the other languages and how to embrace people of different cultural backgrounds and increase deaf cultural awareness, but I wanted to make sure that they are gaining those skills of effective communication. So when you learn a new language with your child, you are like together, if you're working together to learn a new language, you can practice with them when your teacher isn't around, you can
Absolutely.
build those skills, but also you're learning how to actively communicate by getting tools of saying, well, I don't know how to say this. Let me use circumlocution and talk around it and explain it so that my child understands. And sometimes the children understand a new concept better because when they're little, they can learn up to 7 languages before they
Mhm.
start getting confused. So when you actively take time to build that communication skill with your child, you're working on yourself at the same time. It's a secret. I never told any of the parents that, but I
You're
also wanted to make sure that they have those skills to communicate their emotions. Like, but a lot of us were told, stop crying. All right, that's enough. Be quiet. You're making too much noise. You're too
right.
loud. And so we don't get to live in that emotion. So we bottle them up. And I know some people are like me where they bottle it up too much and then they just overload themselves and then they don't know how to handle the stress or properly express their anger or being too happy, if that's the thing. Like,
Oh,
I'm
you're
so
right.
excited for this era of my life, but I can't stop saying I'm so excited because, like, I feel it and it's bubbling up because I get to meet people like you and who are actively working to change the world. So I'm grateful that you decided to be on the show. Like, I'm sorry, that is way off like this tangent. You have me so like, this is my heart just like boom, boom, boom. I'm so excited because we're actively having conversations that are going to make a difference. We're going to make sure not only do they see themselves, like my daughter, she has all of her medical professionals either speak Spanish or look like her. I want to make sure my daughter sees that normalized. I want to make sure other kids like who don't look like my daughter, I want to make sure that when they see someone who looks like us and they speak differently, that they can openly embrace them as a
Right.
friend. Because I say multilingual kids will improve the world because when they are learning to actively embrace other cultures and languages, their parents have a hard time of instilling I call it stupidity, like racist thoughts. They have a hard time of instilling stereotypes because
Mhm.
the kids are meeting people and they're like, this person's not like that. I don't think what you're telling me
Right.
is true.
Mhm.
And so I'm grateful that you are doing something to change that.
Likewise, like I said, we both can agree the world is big. The world is so big. And I think we often forget that. Just on a day-to-day, we forget how large the world is and how, like you said, our cultures are different. And I think, again, the more the merrier. The more bodies and brains that we touch, the more it'll be a better place, so where we're all inclusive and, it'll be perfect. It'll be perfect. I'm super optimistic, if you can't tell.
It's infectious, okay? If anything is contagious, I'm glad that a smile and a laugh and a good mindset is.
For sure.
So talking about you personally, you said it was on your website, your son wasn't in childcare for the first 3 years. And what did you do with him during that time? You said you poured your love for him into these boxes so other parents have the opportunity to do so. Before you thought of creating these boxes and giving access to these different career types, what were you doing with your son?
Mm-hmm. So again, I love being a parent, and like I said, and I love children. So I took everything that I've learned from schooling and hands-on experiences and made sure that he got that. When it was time for me to go to work, while I'm affiliated with so many childcare centers, it was at a time to where the waiting lists were extremely long, and I could not get him in there. I couldn't even pay a higher amount to get him in there. It was just that challenging, and so I was very blessed and fortunate to have my mom and my sister who had flexible schedules. My mother is a resource coordinator for seniors, elderly seniors, in the city of Atlanta. And so at her job, what she does, she brings in various resources to them, whether it be food, health benefits, politicians, whatever it may be, just so that those seniors can have an opportunity to receive particular benefits. And so on those particular days when Caden would have to stay with her, he literally would work with her. So there was a given day that you could see him passing out fresh vegetables to the seniors, or meeting the mayor, or meeting the police chief. He would meet these various people. And then when I picked him up from school, he would come home and recreate what he did for the day. So I know as parents, we buy our kids blocks and figurines and all these other toys. And so in my home, he had like a play area, and he literally built himself a city to where he had the CNN center, the stadium, because my mom worked in that particular area. And so he would recreate what he did. Of course, this is when Alexa first came out, the little Echo dot form, whatever. Uh-huh. He would literally say, Alexa, what's the news? And they would share our local news. Wow. And it could have been, I remember he was real big on John Lewis when he passed. And so he recreated that in his city. And of course, when he was so enamored about, Congressman John Lewis, I mean, he wanted the boots, the suit, the whole 10, to the point that me and my family had to drive down to Selma, Alabama, and allowed him to walk across the bridge because he was in that mindset of becoming John Lewis. And so that stuck with him. He learned history just throughout that moment, and this is he like 6 years old, he was that deep into it. And so I said, wow, if he can do all of this at 6 years old, and it's just a matter of me, creating a space and
that quality time,
and working with him and pretending and just kind of adding on to what's going on. Let me sit down with myself and figure this out, because I want to bottle this and share it, because this is simply amazing to me. And that's what I did. And that's how Blueprint came about. And I chose the name Blueprint because in any industry that you do, or with whatever you try to create, you have to sit down and build a foundation, a solid foundation, before you start gathering your wood, gathering the nails. You got to draw it out, write it out to kind of envision what this thing is going to be. And for me, Blueprint is that same thing in a sense to where, listen, here are a list of things that you possibly could be. Dive into each one, figure out which one you like, and when you find something that speaks to you, take it and build it and make a difference. And so that's how I came up with the name Blueprint. And it's just been, I love it. It's just been changing. It's been pivoting every year. It seems like I'm clearly the foundation, the blueprint or the foundation is still the same. But the fact of how it's growing and changing and evolving blows my mind. I give glory to God for it, because literally I'm like, Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. It's so simple, but yet, like, you mean to tell me no one's doing this but me? And so I'm very grateful to share it. And it's my prayer that every person that receives it, literally that seed is planted for them to go out here and make a difference each and every day. So that's how we got started here.
That is so exciting. Oh my gosh. So we may know people that run in similar circles.
For sure.
Honestly,
For
with
sure.
what you're explaining with what your mom does for the area, I'm pretty sure we have at least one. I might know your mom. I don't know. I don't. You ain't say your mom's name. Don't say that on the air. But but I might know your mom, or your mom might know my mom. That's the kind of thing that, like, when you're working in the right direction, those like-minded people come together. Like,
For
I mean,
sure.
and even people who go to those rallies, they have like-mindedness, and even though their like-mindedness is for tearing others down, mutual dislike of someone, it's nice to see that even though we may not be as loud and boisterous about what we're doing or attacking the Capitol or if anything, we're
Right.
still making change happen right
Right.
where we are. But this change of where we are, like, it's every kid that lives in Atlanta, in the Atlanta area, isn't going to live here forever. But
Mhm.
making sure they have the tools that wherever they go, they know how to grow their food, or they know how to communicate in a different way. They know something that's going to help them universally. That is what's going to make Atlanta great again.
For sure. You're right.
Oh, so I wanted to also ask, can you go ahead and explain how our viewers can connect with you directly? How can they purchase the subscription box? Who is it for specifically? Does it work homeschool and traditional school?
Yes. So it works for both. Primarily, the best way to get in contact with us and to make purchases is on our website, and that's Blueprint. And I have to spell BLO-PRINT.com. That's the best way to get in contact with me as well, and to make purchases, to kind of follow what we have going on. I am staffing my weaknesses when it comes to social media, because I'm very hands on. I'm very personable, and you'll definitely see more photos and videos on social media as well about Blueprint, because, like I said, there's so many kids that I come in contact with that I have a whole collection of just things where I just sit and watch them all day, and I'm just so blessed by them and how they can just take and grow and move this product around. And so I'll post more as well. But like I said, now there will be a calendar for starting in February when we host our live events. We're going to do 3 sessions on Saturdays. So if you're in the area, like I said, all this information is on the website. They're called our Career Day Exploration events. And so if you're ever in the area and want to stop by and just kind of meet other parents, other families, socialize your kiddos, this is a place to be, in a sense. But again, like I said, we're for kids that are just kids in general, those that are in school, those who aren't in school, those who are in pods or nanny shares. No limit. If you fit the age group and you love to have fun, we will accept you.
So, random question. Your blueprint is about using a child's imagination to basically help them line up what are they in alignment with their life for their future. But imagination is the I'm trying to process this right. So imagination is the blueprint for innovation, because even if it's something that hasn't been done, like before AI had started getting created, it started in someone's mind. We have the metaverse, we have all kinds of new things, NFTs, that started in someone's head, and innovation allowed them to be the leaders of their field. So what I'm saying is there a point where after the 8 years old, when they're a teenager, how do we cultivate their imagination to think bigger than what they see on their video games or YouTube or social media? How do we cultivate those older age kids? And if you don't know, that's absolutely fine, but your son is going to grow up. So I would like to know, how do you turn this into, like, maybe an internship, or how do you still cultivate their imagination as they're still growing?
I think we don't stop. I think we just add um more careers, because granted, while you can be, let's just say, a doctor, that's very general. But within the healthcare field, you have a surgeon, you have an ophthalmologist, you have various roles that kind of make the ecosystem work. And so I think, again, in the name of exposure, the more that you expose children to at a higher capacity, the more that they'll spend their attention on and to dive into those particular things. The concept, again, the concept is still the same. And you still, like you said earlier, you need your imagination to spark new ideas, to spark various changes in there. It's just a matter of what we present to them. Because a lot of children, especially in our race, they only see, what's popular. They see a athlete, they see a rapper. However, but there's also producers within the music industry. There's also A&Rs. There's also various roles that one could be. There's sports agents and within, what am I saying, in the industry. So it's our duty to just kind of expand and peel back those various layers to where you may not be the star player, the LeBron on the team, but you also serve a very vital role, somewhere else within the industry. And so I think as children get older, and of course they're able to stretch their capacity to receive more, it's just our duty, or my duty as being a company, to just expose them to that and kind of keep that same thing, going in a sense.
Okay, all right. So you mentioned LeBron, and what made, like you said, he has a sports agent. He has a team of people who make sure that everything in his life that needs to get done gets done. So yes, he may be putting in all the work on the court. And recently, did you hear about the free housing he provided for the families that go to that school? And I think
Right.
it's in Ohio. Like
Right.
stuff like that. He has business partners that help him to complete his other life's goals, because your career isn't your life. Your career is just something that you do, like a hobby. So what about those those kids who grow up and they want to be like a stay-at-home parent? Like when I met my husband, he said he just wanted to be a good dad. So it's really cool to see that that's an option. So building those resources so that you can afford to stay home. Do you have like a career option that's for like people who just are entrepreneurs? Like I don't, because we don't have a specific uniform. I put this hat as my
Right.
uniform,
Mm-hmm.
but like each entrepreneur is completely different. So what about those kids who have an entrepreneurial mindset?
I think it's still kind of, because it kind of fits into the mold, because I can be a police officer, but I can also take that same model with Blueprint and be an entrepreneur and create something geared towards, the police officers in a sense. So while I don't have a particular um, costume or a box that sort of represent what an entrepreneur looks like, because we look totally different, um, it it's a mindset, and I think that the box kind of shifts your mindset to, while you may not be this, you can create this. And even if it's not here, you make it your own. And then that's how entrepreneurship is developed, in a sense. And so that's my answer to that. If it's not there, create it. Or you'll be, motivated to create it.
So you've been in the educational field for a while, and beyond your son, what other stories can you share about how, like, it doesn't have to necessarily be about the subscription box, but how has the impact of educators, especially like everyone knows educators are not paid enough to do the job that they're doing. They're raising the future leaders of our country. So, and giving them access to the idea that they can be more than more than what they see, like more than an athlete, more than a artist. They can be the ones who make the money on the back end, who don't have to show their faces. But what if, can you give me a story of about a kid who you've worked with, or kids who you've worked with that help you to say like I'm glad I am in the educational field?
Mm-hmm. Um, Let me think of one in particular that sort of I have a kiddo that was in a foster home, and the mom moved. Well, the child was in foster home. Well, let me give this short version of the story. The mom and child moved to Georgia abruptly because they just had to get away from a negative situation. A lot of abuse, a lot of just toxic things going on within the immediate family. The child was exposed to so much that I can only imagine under the age of 5. And so I actually met this particular person while catching an Uber. She was my driver. And again, the lack of not having childcare, she had to bring her child to work with her. And so she begged and she pleaded with me, oh, please don't write this up. I cannot afford to lose this, the whole 10, which the child was, it didn't bother me at all because I deal with children on a day to day. So as she began to share her story with me, my heart went out to that child because I'm like, all you know is trauma, that all you've experienced so far in your little life was trauma. And a lot of her interactions, she had to go to the hospital. So she was encountering lots of nurses and doctors. And so when she dropped me off at my home, this is right after Invest. So everything was like still like in my living room in a sense. I told her, I want to bless you with a gift for your child. And I know she's been speaking about doctors and nurses. I have a nurse costume that I would love to just gift her. Just because I gave her a box, and because I didn't have time to assemble some of the pieces, my presentation was very sloppy. So I had to I gave her a book and I gave her a costume. And I believe I gave her an activity set and some of the snacks that came along with the box or whatever. And I gave her my phone number because I told her, I said, listen, I want to not only help you clearly with, just your child, but I work with the state's organization. And so I was able to link her to some resources because I truly cared about the child's well-being. I was empathetic to their situation. So a couple of days have gone. I lied. It wasn't even a couple of days. It was less than 48 hours. She called me in tears and was like, this costume has really changed my daughter's mindset because every time she affiliated with doctors and nurses, it was negative because of the trauma that she was experiencing. And so she said that all the mom could do at the time was just read the book. She didn't have time to do the activities, which I understand. And she read that book, and that daughter was literally taking out pages from that storybook and recreating it, and just kind of shifted her whole opinion about when she thought about a doctor, when she thought about a nurse. They weren't here to harm her, they were here to help her. And she was recreating those same tools and tactics on her toys. And so that story touched me the most because, again, you never know what a person's going through, and you never know how a simple costume or a simple book and just creating a moment for them can make a difference. And to me, without disclosing so much of all that the child and the family had gone through, that just touched me in a positive way. And and it just opened my eyes. I'm so focused on kids who, aren't in school or whose parents, but it's just like, there's a reason why. It's not always about kids not being able to get in during a waiting list, or not, whose families aren't able to afford childcare. But there's some who are going through real life situations, and this is just the last thing on their mind. They don't have time to go through this process, and the kids have to endure so much. And so for me to just gift her that and to take her mind off of it and kind of just, again, change that mindset or give her a new outlook was a big deal for me. And so I was grateful for that moment.
Wow. Oh my gosh. God's gonna bless you because you have this heart that's not, it's bigger than me kind
For
of
sure.
concept. And like when you said the foster part of it is, I've always wanted to work with foster kids in some kind of format. I used to want to be a foster, but I believe that the way I can service them would be I'll be able to help more of them. So I actually know people who foster kids, and one of the things that I saw was a lot of the younger kids were missing access to like effective communication. So they would get frustrated and they couldn't communicate. So then they would tear up their whole room because they didn't have the words to say that I'm I'm upset because of blah, blah, blah. Like I left something at my old house when the transporter came and got me, and now I will never see it again. So even even with playing with these kids, like I have the foster kids have always had my heart. Like I never thought I would be a mom. And I said, if I ever have kids, there are so many kids in the foster care program. I know I have to adopt at least one or two. I'll talk to my husband about that later. But with the foster kids not having access to communication, that's one of the things that I have to work with some deaf professionals so that we can teach this curriculum. I wrote a trilingual curriculum that teaches the basics in sign language and Spanish so that these kids who often move more than the average person, I mean, minus those military professionals, but these kids move so much or they're in different situations, having access to different languages, let alone effective communication, gives them the ability to make friends wherever they are. So when they've moved, the little lady that you are talking about and her mom, just giving them access to, like, you know what? Yes, you may have only had negative experiences with this person or this kind of career and occupation, giving them access to know, like, hey, you can be one who helps someone else. Like I had to create a career that allowed me to be what I needed growing up. So you just gave that little girl that same opportunity, and I'm so proud of you for that. Like I'm so, like as this conversation has continued, I'm just like grateful that God keeps putting me in around people who are just doing a thing. Like, and not everyone gets their flowers while they're here, but I want to make sure you get yours in every way possible because you are doing something that makes a difference. I had someone reach out to us in the chat and they said, "Is there a blueprint box for mass communication or technology or aeronautics?" I think that's an astronaut. I'm thinking that's an astronaut.
Mm-hmm. I do have astronaut, and I do have a coding box, engineering box. Yes.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm.
And hold on, so this engineering, I've just talked to someone yesterday. She's not even a kid. She's a mom, and she's trying to find her way. So coding is the way that she wants to go moving forward. So it's interesting that you said you have a box for that. So as she's learning how to code, this will be something that her son can benefit from. It's like, oh, I'm going to work with mommy. Like my daughter loves setting up her laptop. It's like a little leapfrog laptop next to
Yes.
mine and
Yeah.
pretending like she's like, I'm working. So it's really awesome that you are going to be able to give. I'm going to make sure I get that box specifically for them because it's motivational for those parents to say, hey, you know how parents like to brag, I'm raising a doctor, or she's going to be a
Right.
lawyer, or one of those
Yes.
kind of careers. But either way, we just need to raise world changers. And I'm glad that you are helping parents do that. Do you have any questions for me?
No, I just want to thank you because, like, I mean, we spoke earlier in the week, and I said, "Oh my God, this is my person," because we're literally on the same wavelength. And for me, the fact that you speak so many languages is amazing to me, and that you touch so many lives, and that to me is admirable. And for that alone, it's just a whole lane within itself. And so for me, I'm just grateful that I've had the opportunity to meet you. Like I said, even when we met at InvestFest, you were one of the very few people that actually followed up and delivered on what they said they were going to do. And because I'm a big believer in character and follow through, I thank you for that. For even inviting me here on your show to share me with your community and all that we will do in the future. I am just absolutely great. I had an opportunity to hear her parent, and she's just so patient and kind with her daughter, and it just blessed my heart. And so again, I just have to say thank you. I am absolutely full and just forever grateful for the opportunity.
Oh, I'm so grateful to have you as well. The feeling is mutual, and I look forward to building something great with you, as well as the other people in our industry of world changing. World changing is, I guess, that's our industry. I'm a global community liaison, so like something along that line, because no matter how we're changing the world, we're making a global impact. So you
Mhm.
can raise a kid negatively or in a traumatic experience, and not because you're not healing your own, and you're going to negatively impact the world. But each one of our children are a part of the same community. So I just want parents to keep in mind that the way you raise your child now is going to determine how your community is run in the future. There
Absolutely.
is one last segment of the show that I asked each of the guests, and it was actually inspired by that lab tech show that I was talking about. The host I featured, he has a word of the day for each episode. But instead of doing a word, I would like to do a song of the day for our episode. What
Okay.
song is heavy in your spirit right now? Like it could be any song that's like, you know, on brand.
Oh God, you caught me off guard here. I have literally no song in my spirit today.
Okay, okay. So
What
do
about
you have
you?
like a concept? Um, it's called "The Lover of My Soul" by Jonathan McReynolds. It's a gospel song. It like I know that whatever I'm doing, I just got to make sure I'm doing right by my creator. I got to make sure that at the end of the day, God is happy with me. Like Cat Williams said in that interview with Club Shay Shay, he said, "I want to be God's friend." And that I didn't put it into those kind of words until he said it. I was like, I want to live in according to what's going to be pleasing to God. So with what we're doing with all of this work between the daycares, the childcare, and raising up this next generation, we know that it takes active work between us and the parents and the other educators that are around to make sure that we're raising them up in a way that we can be proud to say that that's my baby.
I can support that. I do. That is our song for our episode. I can support it
Okay.
100%.
And I want to thank all of our viewers for tuning in today to this episode. We will probably meet Lauren. Can we do a follow up on social media sometime soon? Because I want to make sure that we keep these conversations moving forward. Because what if someone missed our episode, but they're in our audience on our social media platforms, and
Sure.
they
Absolutely.
what
I
if
would
they
love
have the
that.
resources or something, and they have something? So we're going to make sure we work together continuously, because I mean, being a parent is a lifelong job. So making sure the kids we parent as educators get that benefit as well. I would love to continue this conversation with you over social media.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
And to all of our viewers, thank you for watching. Please don't forget to go subscribe to us on all of your favorite podcasting platforms. We are definitely located on your Roku. If you got a Roku, I got mine right here. We are located on YouTube, all of the social media platforms at the WCEG network. Well, it's not the at WCEG underscore network on all of the platforms. And I am your host, Inez, and this has been a lovely episode featuring Ms. Lauren Watts of the Blueprint Imaginative Play Company. I am so excited for you, our viewers, to see what happens next.